This landlord hired a realtor to find him a tenant, and that tenant now owes him $40,000 in unpaid rent. So how did this happen, and how can you avoid a $40,000 headache? I shouldn't be laughing because it is really unfortunate. Let's react to this video published by the CBC. I'll give some commentary and also some tips on how to avoid this sort of mess.
For a closer look, CBC first visited residential landlord Sanal Zarawar last December.
I've been in this country for over 24 years. Never in my life have I seen this kind of mess.
So the guy, the landlord, he lives in Ontario, and the property he bought is also in Ontario. That's all fine and dandy. However, what's not as great is obviously that his tenant owes him $40,000. But there's something that you can even argue is a bit worse.
So we had to put myself, my brother, my sister, we had to take money from my little sister, like $2-3 grand, just to get all the deposit in.
When he bought the property, this is really unfortunate. When he bought the property, it wasn't all his own money. He pulled in money together with his family for the down payment in order to buy the property, which is what makes the situation even worse because it's not just his property. And that makes the lost rent even worse, in my opinion. And as we go through it, I'm really curious as to everybody's thoughts about this whole story. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
To find reliable tenants, he hired a real estate agent and paid him the equivalent of 1 month's rent. At first, it seemed the agent had delivered.
As a coach and his wife is a nurse, I found them, to be people that are responsible. And
okay, so he hired a realtor to find a tenant. And first of all, maybe I have a different perspective of this because I don't live in Ontario and I don't practice my real estate in Ontario. But here in Alberta, we don't usually hire realtors to find tenants. That's typically going to be property managers, or the landlord themselves will find it. Spending time finding a tenant is not usually what realtors will be doing. And even if they are doing it, how much experience does a realtor really have compared to a property manager, for example, in finding a tenant?
Then in June, that's when things started to, to go down the hill, where he started paying rent, and he said, okay, you know what, next month.
Okay, so ultimately the tenant stopped paying rent, but that's not really what got bizarre. Like, yeah, $40,000 in unpaid rent is very bad, but things took a little bit of a different turn. This is where it gets really bizarre.
Then he got a phone call from another landlord.
I'm going to tell you that the tenant living in your house was living in my house. I'm like, I don't understand how, that makes no sense.
Zarawar discovered the tenant's agent racked up another commission, helping the very same tenant sign a lease for a separate place just a few days apart. Same agent, same tenant, different places.
The landlord got a call from a different landlord. Again, this is where things get really weird. Who told him that this tenant that he has also signed a lease at this other landlord's place. So the tenant has 2 different leases in 2 different homes, and allegedly it was done by the same realtor. The same realtor signed both of the leases. If this is true and everything they're saying is true, obviously that's really, really, really bad. I could tell you that much. If I had to take a guess, and if I was trying to come at this in good faith and think maybe the agent had no bad intentions, one of them could be that the agent just tried to sign both leases at the same time because he didn't really know which one was going to get accepted, and he was really trying to help the tenant, maybe, and maybe one of the landlord was saying no, the other one was kind of saying yes, and then they both just happened to say yes afterwards. The second possibility, again, I have no idea if this is true, just a thought, could be that he tried to get commissions on both of them at the same time.
7 months later, Zarawar says the tenant is still there, won't leave, and now owes nearly $40,000 in unpaid rent.
We are doing whatever we can to continue to pay the mortgages, the bill, except the property tax, because we have absolutely nothing left anymore.
So this is really unfortunate, and this is part of a bigger problem. I don't live in Ontario, but I've had many people tell me this, and I've read on this a little bit, that the wait times to get a hearing at a landlord-tenant board is very, very long. Someone being there for about 7 months and $40,000 of unpaid rent is just really unfair and not the right way we should have this system. Alberta is obviously a lot more landlord-friendly, whether you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, there's different perspectives. It is objectively more landlord-friendly, I'd say, than Ontario. Another thing, and I'm just taking a guess here just based on what I'm seeing, if he bought this property in the last few years when rates were really high and prices were at their peak, his monthly payment is very high, obviously $40,000 in the 7 months.
When he purchased the home in this Whitby neighborhood, he thought he was protecting himself by paying the agent to vet tenants.
That's their job.
But Zarawar says it turns out the contract didn't include that service, even though he says the agent promised it would be done.
So this is not too surprising again. My understanding is a realtor will just not do the same type of job, usually as a property manager. So it makes sense that a realtor is not going to be doing the same type of screening or vetting on tenants. And again, maybe this is different in Ontario. Realtors might do the same or case by case.
A lot of fraudulent information is on the rise. There's entire companies out there that advertise on social media that they will provide somebody with fraudulent documents.
I'm not a property manager, but even I tell people these days to watch out for stuff like this. For example, if you're vetting a tenant and you can't find any information about the type of place or where they're working at, you should be very, very careful and do your due diligence very carefully. Put the extra effort in for due diligence. It's your home and your investment.
There's actually nothing in the listing agreement that outlines the realtor's role in pre-screening. Here, where it says the landlord's initiative. Landlords need to take responsibility. They need to read what they sign with the listing brokerage.
So this goes without saying, you should always be reading whatever you sign. So it's possible that this landlord didn't read the service agreement, which, I mean, he should have, but at the same time, it might not entirely be his fault. Because if the agent, I don't know, if the agent told him that he'll be screening and vetting, then maybe the guy just took his word for it. So again, if you're a landlord, I would really recommend either you get very good yourself at running your property, finding tenants, screening tenants, doing everything yourself, or you hire a property manager who can do that for you. Someone who's a great realtor who spends a lot of time helping people buy homes, sell homes. That's what they spend their time doing. How much time do they realistically have to get very good at screening tenants, vetting tenants, compared to a property manager who just does this stuff all day, every day? That's all I have for this story today. Again, if you're a landlord or planning on being a landlord, just be very careful. There's a lot of fantastic, great tenants out there. And of course, there's always going to be a few bad apples, just like there's some bad landlords out there. Just be careful, do your due diligence, and check to make sure everything is okay. I don't know what's going to happen with this guy here. Could result in a multi-year lawsuit. Who really knows? I hope him the best. But that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe for more content similar to this. I will catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye.